Did you know elevators are doorways to another dimension? There's a ritual. It's simple. You get in alone, you press a secret sequence of buttons, and if you follow the rules exactly, a woman gets on at the fifth floor. But she's not human. And if you make it all the way to the top, you may not be in your world anymore. This is the elevator game, one of the internet's eeriest rituals. It sounds like a story, but what if someone actually played it? Because in one case, someone was caught on camera following the pattern, and she was never seen alive again. Welcome back to Forgotten Forums, the show where we investigate the dark corners of the internet, viral rituals, strange legends, unexplained posts, and all the weird digital folklore that gets copy-pasted into our brains whether we like it or not. Today we're talking about something different. Not a ghost story, not quite a creepypasta, but something that feels dangerous. It lives somewhere between urban legend, shared hallucination, and digital campfire tale. It's called the elevator game, and depending on who you ask, it's either a harmless internet myth or a ritual that might take you out of this world entirely. We'll look at where the story came from, what the rules are, why people are still trying it, and how it became tangled up in one of the most disturbing true crime cases of the last decade. And then we'll go even deeper into what this whole phenomenon reveals about us. Let's hit the button. The elevator game didn't start on YouTube, Reddit, or Creepypasta Wiki. It started quietly on Korean message boards around 2010, maybe earlier. No clear author, no flashy graphics, just instructions and a warning. It claimed you could use an elevator, not to travel through a building, but to travel out of this world. To play, you needed three things. 1. A building with at least 10 floors. 2. An elevator you can operate alone. And 3. Let's be honest, zero regard for your own safety. The steps go like this. You enter the elevator by yourself. No one else can be inside with you. Then you press the buttons in a precise order. Floor 4, then 2, then 6, then 2 again, then 10, then 5. And this is where things get weird. When the elevator reaches the 5th floor, the door may open, and a woman may step in. She will look off, not obviously monstrous, just wrong. Her presence is the first true test of the game. You're not supposed to acknowledge her, not a glance, not a word. If you speak to her, the game is over, and not in the thanks for playing kind of way. After she enters, you press the button for the first floor. Now, if the elevator descends to the ground floor like it's supposed to, you're safe. The ritual failed. You can go about your day, ideally with a story to tell at parties. But if the elevator starts to ascend instead and takes you to the 10th floor, then you've crossed over. That's how you know it worked. In the other world, everything is just slightly off. The lights might flicker. The halls look familiar but warped. You may see a glowing red cross through a distant window. The building feels empty, not abandoned, vacant. And your electronics? They don't work anymore. Some versions of the game say if you pass out, you'll wake up at home. Others claim you'll be trapped forever, wandering a ghost world that mirrors your own. And to return, you have to reverse the steps exactly. The problem is, the elevator may not let you, or you might press the right buttons and get someone else instead. It's a strange ritual, and what makes it so disturbing isn't just the steps, it's the specificity. It feels executable. Not magic, not myth, just possible enough to make you wonder. And that's the trick. You read the rules, and for a second you think, I could do this. Then your stomach drops. Because some part of you believes it just might work. Of course, it's just a game, just a story, right? Unless someone actually played it, and unless just once it worked. In January 2013, just a year or two after the elevator game started circulating online, Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. She was 21 years old, a student from Vancouver, traveling alone. She posted updates on Tumblr, photos of bookstores, cafes, city streets. She seemed introspective, creative, maybe a little lonely, like most of us when we're 21 and drifting through someplace unfamiliar. But then, she vanished. Her family reported her missing. Hotel staff said she'd been behaving oddly, friendly one moment, withdrawn the next. Guests began complaining about water pressure, about a strange taste in the tap, about brownish liquid coming from the faucets. 2 weeks later, Elisa's body was found in the hotel's rooftop water tank. There was no clear explanation for how she got there. The tanks were locked. The doors were alarmed. To reach them, you had to go through a secured area and climb a ladder, and there was no evidence of foul play. But the real reason this story exploded online was the elevator video. Security footage from just before she disappeared shows Elisa entering the hotel elevator, and what she does next is chilling. She presses several buttons in quick succession, including what appears to be the button for the 10th floor. She steps in and out of the elevator, hides in the corner, peeks into the hallway as if someone's following her. She gestures with her hands like she's talking to someone, but there's no one else on camera. The elevator doors stay open for an unnaturally long time. Then she walks out, and that's the last time she was seen alive. Now let's be very clear. There are real-world explanations. Elisa Lam had a diagnosed bipolar disorder. Her autopsy showed no signs of trauma or drugs. Some experts say her behavior in the video could be attributed to a manic episode. Others point to mechanical faults with the elevator itself. But the internet, especially the corner of the internet that loves forbidden games, saw something else. They saw a match. Her behavior mirrored the elevator game almost beat for beat. Entering the elevator alone, pressing multiple buttons, peering out as if someone was approaching, acting erratic around the 5th floor, stepping in and out, seemingly unsure which world she was in. Conspiracy theorists lit up. YouTubers made hour-long breakdowns. Reddit threads exploded. Was Elisa Lam playing the elevator game? Did she make it to the 10th floor? Or did she look at the woman on the 5th? Of course, none of this explains the logistics of how she ended up in a sealed water tank. But it feels like a missing piece. Because the true terror of her story isn't just what happened, it's how much we don't know. And into that vacuum, the elevator game fit like a key. People weren't looking for the truth. They were trying to make sense of the unexplainable. The game gave it structure. It gave it meaning. It let them believe there was a system, a cause, a ritual gone wrong. It also turned a real-life tragedy into an internet myth. And maybe that's why the story stuck. Because when reality feels broken, we reach for something bigger, even if that something involves a haunted elevator and a woman you're not supposed to look at. There's something strangely seductive about the elevator game, and it's not just the creep factor. Sure, the idea of entering an elevator and finding yourself in a parallel world is unsettling, but unsettling in a way that hooks you. You can almost feel the buttons under your fingertips, hear the hum of the cables. Picture yourself stepping inside, heart pounding, daring the world to change when the doors open. But beneath the horror, there's something deeper. The elevator game taps into a psychological space we all know but rarely talk about, the liminal space, the in-between, the thresholds. It lives in parking garages, empty stairwells, hallways at night, places meant to be passed through, not occupied. Elevators are the perfect symbol. They're transitional, mechanical, anonymous. You're inside a box, trusting it to move you through vertical space, surrounded by silence and strangers who refuse to make eye contact. So much of the world makes sense horizontally, streets, paths, walking from room to room. But elevators break that. They move you in a direction that evolution never prepared you for. That disconnect alone makes us uneasy. Now add a ritual, a forbidden pattern, and the suggestion that vertical movement could break more than just physics. It becomes metaphysical. And then there's the woman. She's a recurring figure in ritual lore, in Japanese ghost stories, in bathroom mirror games, in countless tales that whisper, if you see her, don't look, if you hear her, don't speak. She's the boundary guard, the trickster, the last warning before you step off the map. Whether you see her as an omen, a ghost, or some kind of interdimensional customs agent, she embodies a very old archetype, one you recognize in your spine before you even register her face. People aren't drawn to this game because they think it'll work. They're drawn to it because they want it to. We long for cracks in reality, for rituals with rules, for the idea that if we follow a path, any path, we might get somewhere extraordinary. And this isn't new. We've always had stories like this. From Greek mythology to urban legends to Reddit no-sleep posts. The elevator game is just the digital age's version of crossing into the underworld. You don't need a magic door or a hidden wardrobe. You just need a quiet building and the courage to push the buttons. It also speaks to a quiet frustration that many of us live with, the sense that our lives are too grounded, that the world has lost its magic. The elevator game offers the possibility that the fantastic still is possible, just hidden behind something as ordinary as brushed steel and fluorescent lighting. That you could leave the office at 2 a.m. exhausted, step into the elevator, and vanish. And yes, there's a part of us that wants to be chosen, that wants to believe that maybe, if we're careful enough, if we're brave enough, if we press the right buttons in just the right order, we might go somewhere no one else can, even if we don't know how to get back. It didn't take long for the elevator game to escape the corners of obscure message boards and creepypasta blogs. Once it touched Reddit, YouTube, and Tumblr, it evolved, mutated. It wasn't just a game anymore. It became a challenge, a performance, a test of courage in front of an audience. On YouTube, entire subgenres formed around playing the elevator game at 3 a.m., a spiritual sibling to Bloody Mary, Candyman, or those Ouija board challenges where nothing ever quite happens, but the thumbnails promise otherwise. You'd see influencers stumbling into elevators, holding shaky cameras, whispering, "Okay, we're going to press the sequence now," like they were conducting a séance with their phone's flashlight as the only thing holding back the dark. TikTok gave it a second life. There, the game shed its lore and became pure vibes, liminal horror, aesthetic unease, dramatic reenactments of what you might see on the 10th floor. Soft red filters, a woman in silhouette, a single button lit up with no one pressing it. Horror reduced to symbols, but symbols that still work. Even mainstream media took notice. In 2023, the Canadian horror film Elevator Game turned the ritual into a slasher-esque nightmare, complete with teenagers, dark pasts, and a literal ghost woman who stalks the players. It wasn't high art, but it cemented the myth's place in pop culture. When a fictional internet game gets its own movie, you know it's earned a permanent corner in the public imagination. And then, of course, there are the Reddit posts. Long, sweaty, hot, deeply committed no-sleep entries from people who claim they actually played the game. Some say they made it back, others hint they didn't. One particularly intense story reads like a found confession, written by someone losing track of which world they're in. The floors stopped working, the building stretched, the woman began speaking. Was it real? Of course not. But when you read it at 1 a.m. in the quiet glow of your screen, something inside you whispers, "But what if it was?" That's the power of stories like this. They live between entertainment and belief. We know they're fiction, and we act like we don't. We want to be scared, not by gore or monsters, but by possibility. The idea that reality is unstable, that something unexplainable might be hiding inside the most mundane things. An old hallway, a dark stairwell, or the soft ding of an elevator arriving on the wrong floor. In that way, the elevator game isn't just a creepypasta, it's a mirror. A pressure test for how willing we are to believe in something just a few steps off the edge of logic. And maybe that's why it spread so fast. Because in a world saturated with content, something quiet and unsettling, something that asks for nothing but your curiosity, feels more powerful than a jump scare ever could. So, why do we keep coming back to this? To button sequences and ghost women and dimly lit elevators that never quite go where they should? Because the elevator game, beneath all its creepypasta packaging, reveals something surprisingly human. For one thing, it gives us a sense of control. In a world that feels chaotic and unpredictable, here's a ritual with rules. If you follow the sequence exactly, something is supposed to happen. You get a result. You get a payoff. You might get a glimpse of something hidden. That's seductive, especially in a world where we're constantly told to trust systems we don't understand. Algorithms, governments, even elevators themselves. There's also something comforting about a structure that promises transformation. The elevator game, like so many urban rituals, is a kind of trial, a mini hero's journey. You enter one world, face a test, sometimes literally in the form of the woman on the 5th floor, and return changed. Or not at all. It's a liminal experience in a literal liminal space. And that's no accident. The concept of liminality, that disorienting in-between phase where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you'll become, is deeply embedded in mythology, psychology, and horror. Elevators are perfect symbols of that. They exist only to move you between states. And the idea that something could go wrong, not mechanically but metaphysically, scratches a deep psychological itch. And then there's the anonymity of it all. The elevator game doesn't ask for a name or a belief system or a backstory. Anyone can try it. All you need is an elevator and a willingness to risk stepping out into somewhere else. That universal accessibility makes it feel dangerous in a different way. Because if anyone can play it, maybe someone has. Maybe someone did. And maybe they never came back. Finally, the game exposes our love of mystery. We are pattern-making creatures. Give us just enough structure and we'll invent the rest. The red cross in the distance, the woman who isn't quite human, the buttons, the floors, the silence. None of it has a confirmed source or canon or author. But people still play. They tell each other the rules like they were passed down from ancient scrolls. The story exists in the same way folklore has always existed. Half whispers, dimly remembered rules, warnings given as dares. We pass it down not because we think it's real, but because it gives us something real to feel. That thrill, that unease, that little voice in the back of your mind saying, "Don't try it, but what if you did?" Even Einstein, in his thought experiments, imagined elevators moving through space. He asked, "How can you tell the difference between standing in an elevator on Earth and floating in one that's being pulled upward in space at 9.8 meters per second squared?" The answer? You can't. Not from inside. From your perspective, those two realities are indistinguishable. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. You step into the elevator, the doors close, you press the buttons, and as it begins to move, you have no way of knowing where you're really going. So, would you try it? Would you stand alone in a quiet building after midnight and press the buttons? Would you keep your eyes forward when the woman steps on at 5? Would you press the first floor and hold your breath? The elevator game isn't about belief, it's about temptation. It tempts us with the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this world than fluorescent lights and floor numbers. That buried in the dull machinery of our daily lives is something ancient, mysterious, waiting. Maybe that's why we keep playing. Not just this game, but all the stories like it. Maybe we're all just waiting for the elevator to stop on the wrong floor, hoping we're brave enough to step out, hoping we're not alone, hoping we are. Thanks for riding along with Forgotten Forums. If this episode left you checking the elevator panel a little more carefully, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And remember, next time you're in a building with more than 10 floors and you're alone and the light flickers, maybe don't press the buttons, because some elevators don't just take you up, they take you elsewhere.